Hello and welcome to the Imperfectly Empowered podcast. I am your host, Anna Fulmer. Dr. Torkel Farrow is a general practitioner and emergency physician, documentary filmmaker, author, photographer, and globetrotter. With over 25 years as a doctor, he has worked all over Norway, had tens of thousands of consultations, and has gained a unique understanding of the illnesses that afflict us. Here to share his expert advice on how to lower disease risk by monitoring your heart rate variability using a fitness watch. Welcome, Dr. Torkel Farrow. I'm honored to have you. I thoroughly enjoyed your book. For those of you watching, I apologize. I'm not in my normal studio. We are moving, so we are making do. We are recording on the fly. I have the book here. We are talking about the pulse cure. It's not really, well, it's not really showing very well, but the pulse cure, balance stress, optimize health, and live longer. I love on the title, it says the runaway Scandinavian bestseller. It should become a bestseller in the United States as well. It's an incredible book. I have not read anything like this yet. And really what you talk about is this concept of heart rate variability and how we can monitor it in order to ultimately not just prevent disease, but actually promote living well, less stress and more energy. But before we can even talk about how we do that, I think it's important to highlight what heart rate variability even is, because someone is already thinking, oh, I just track how high or how low my heart rate is, which isn't incorrect, but it's a little incomplete. So talk to us about it.
Yeah, so the heart rate variability shows the stress level, the stress balance in your body. So it is a combination between how the heart will react to breathing in and breathing out. And I can explain that if you are in a relaxed state, in a recovery state, that we are made to be most of the time through evolution, then the heart will beat a little bit faster as we breathe in, and there is more oxygen in the lungs. And when we breathe out and there is less oxygen in the lungs, it will slow down a little bit to save a little bit of power. And when we are stressed, it will not allow the heart, your body will not allow the heart to slow down. It will think that now we need to use all available forces because this organism may not survive the next moment, so we need to push through even if there is less oxygen in the lungs. And the pulse devices, they can measure this, measured in milliseconds, and then make an assessment of whether you are in the relaxed state or in the stress state. And it's important because we don't really have a sense like this. All our senses from evolutionary times are directed outwards to the threats from animals, from enemies, from food that is contaminated, or degraded. So this sense of our inner state would just be in the way of those senses. So it's not only that we don't have this sense really developed, but it's actually downplayed. So to not disturb the outward senses. And this is why we end up in this, we can go into a fatigue situation where we are totally burned out and it can take years to come back, and some may even not manage to come back to their state. So this is a really, really important thing to avoid the stress-related diseases. That is the most common diseases these days. So
Yeah.
that is why it's so important. And the heart rate, it has some connection to the heart rate, but I usually call it's like watching your heart rate with a magnifying glass. And it tells you so much about this balance in your autonomic nervous system. That is so important.
And I think a point that is well made in the book is that we often think that we are relaxed when in reality, we're actually living with this elevated baseline of stress. And that's hard for us to recognize. I have said before, even in my community, in my early morning habit community, that especially as women, our stressed is almost the new relaxed. We don't
Yeah.
even realize that we live with this constantly elevated level of cortisol, and we think we're relaxed when our bodies actually aren't. And it's why, so I did not realize you were an emergency medicine physician. You may or may not know this, but I worked in the ER for 10 years.
All right.
And so it's an interesting perspective for us because we have seen this so many times where people come in with this acute physical manifestation that we cannot diagnose via lab work. We can't diagnose via radiological exams. Chest pain is what comes to mind the most, where there's actually no cardiac uh, disease happening from the standpoint of there's nothing acute happening, but there's still this extreme tension and pain that somebody is feeling. And they don't even report necessarily any type of like acute, but it's this ongoing chronic stress that starts to build up in our system that ends up manifesting physically, even though there's no acute disease, which is precisely to your point that this ongoing state of stress ends up leading to chronic diseases where
Yeah.
inflammation is the underlying, you know,
Yeah.
pathology. So it's such a great point where if we can actually monitor it tangibly, even if mentally we don't think we're stressed, but our body is saying, well, actually you are, it really gives us a tool to intervene early.
Yeah. So because when you really feel stressed, then it has come a long way.
Yes.
So this will pick up smaller senses of stress. So it makes it possible to avoid, to manage it, to navigate away from the possible ditch, that you could end up in.
Mm-hmm.
It's so important that, and our bodies are made for the acute stress for a short time,
Mm-hmm.
and then to recover. So it has never in history, has people been stressing all the time at some
Yes.
level. If you see people living in natural conditions, they are relaxing most of the time, in
Mm.
their hammocks or just
Mm.
resting and just talking and really relaxing. So we have gotten used to that when we think, just as you say, that when we think we are relaxed, there's another big level below that because we have just gotten used to this high speed of our times, and we have to use these monitors to find the peace, to find measurable rest, and not
Mm.
what we think is rest. Because you'd be surprised at what stresses you when you start monitoring. You'd be surprised about the amount of stress caused by alcohol,
Yes.
caused by too much training or too little training, or your diet. If you eat junk food and you eat ultra processed food, that will show on your wearables. That will create an inflammation, a stress in your body. That will sap your forces night and day. And once you can identify this, that you can see that, okay, I shouldn't eat this food, I should rather eat this kind of food. And when you see the result on your watch, it's so much more motivating to take those hard choices
Mm. Mm.
because we all want to eat the ice cream and eat the
Mm-hmm.
chocolate and the
Mm-hmm.
crisps and everything. But when you see that it really ruins your day, then it's so much easier to pick an apple or
Yeah.
some vegetables instead.
Yeah, I love you'd used a phrase that you just said, measured rest. We need to be able to measure rest. And that's such a profound concept because we're not talking about sleep. We often think about rest in terms of sleep, but rest is so essential in our waking hours. And like you just said, we were designed to be at rest even during the day. And I mean, let me also, just for anyone that's new around here, I am preaching to myself. I am one that has had to do a lot of work to take that measured rest and be intentional. Otherwise, you're just on the go all the time, especially if you're that type A productive personality. Speaking of myself there, that does not
Yeah.
rest well. You do have
And
to
that
be
is
intentional.
exactly, and that is so important because the ones that are most prone to go into a burnout situation are the productive people, the type
Yes.
A people, the ones who are on the go constantly. Uh, and to lose them, lose their power, their contribution to society, So it's not only that the people are sick and needs treatment often, but you lose the ones that could be the most productive
Mm,
in our society. So it's
mm,
like a double loss.
mm.
And that is those are the ones that are most happy about the watches, and that the watches often will tell you you should rest. And
Yes.
that because they would not allow themselves to rest, they would feel guilty. They feel that they
Yeah.
should do something from the morning until evening, and they crash exhausted. And we're just not made for that. It makes us sick. Our immune system is not geared towards that speed. And because we are surrounded by machines, we think
Mm.
that we are machines, that we can go on in full speed from morning to the evening, but we can't do that. There'll be a price to pay.
That's so good. And you're so right. I think technology has actually made us sometimes confuse the fact that we are not. We're not machines. I mean, that's also such an impactful statement because technology, I think, has given us this idea that uh, we can do infinitely more because the possibilities are endless due to technology, and we forget our own limitations and even the joy of having those limitations. Like you said, there is joy in rest. And so, yeah, thank God we're not machines, that we were designed
Yeah,
to rest because there's joy there,
yeah.
being able to
Yeah,
relax.
and not only joy, but performance. So when you
Yes.
look at the best performers
Yes.
across, whether they are athletes or
Yes.
violinists or business people, they are good at rest because the rest is a very productive time. You think better, and your brain in the default mode network will produce better thoughts. You're more creative. So it's not just downtime that is lost. It's
Yes.
it's actually the most creative time. So it's you can rest with a good conscience. It's you can still perform well.
I love that. That is literally the concept of my health and fitness program, Early Morning Habit. It is helping women, busy women, start their day being still. It's that
Mm,
exact concept where we're tapping into that reality that we think we've been programmed to believe that going faster and harder is going to cause us to stress less because we can check off more on the to-do list. But it just
mm.
feeds that ongoing cycle of hustle harder, do more, be better, and then burn
Yeah,
out.
yeah. I just read The Rushing Woman Syndrome. I don't know if you read that book.
No.
No, you should read that. It's by Libby Weaver. So
Okay.
the rushing woman syndrome that creates stress, and she says that many women needs to be everything for everybody all the time.
Yes.
So they want to please everybody, and you can't do that. You'll end up being stressed out.
Mm-hmm.
So the ability to relax will keep the women that you're talking about healthy and productive all their lives. If they are able to mitigate the stress levels. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Amen. You point out in the book that there is a correlation between heart rate variability and 9 out of the 10 deadliest diseases in the United States. Talk to me a little bit about that. If anyone is not convinced yet that this is important and relevant, talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Low heart rate variability is a sign that your body is under stress. And when your body is under stress, the first thing that gets compromised is the immune system. And the immune system, affects all the organs, even the brain and degenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson and many of those kind of diseases. So if you are stressed, you're not giving your immune system enough power to do its job. So it will result in all kinds of lifestyle related diseases, including cancer. So you can Google, different variations of cancer and add heart rate variability, and you will find that it has your risk of getting cancer is connected to HRV. Your prognosis, if you get cancer, is connected to HRV. And if you get cancer free, your chances of having a relapse will depend on your HRV. It's so important for all the big killers and of death of all causes.
Mm,
But what is good about it is that what you need to do to have well-being in the moment is the same things you have to do to be healthy in the
yeah.
moment and over long time. And using the wearables makes it actually more fun to do it. It's kind of a gamification. You get some scores for your sleep. You get your readings, are you exercising enough or too little? So it's kind of you're getting a game where your own life and health is at stake. So many people think that this will stress them out.
Mm-hmm.
That this will just be one more thing, to give them more stress. But that is not my experience. People find a way to use these numbers and to maneuver. So if you could see that you're stressed and not had the tools to get out of it, okay, that would be stressful, of course.
Yes.
But in the Pulse Cure, in my book, I'm telling the ways to get out of it and the way to find this balance.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, and it works. And this is why it has been a bestseller in Norway for almost a year and a half, and kind of changing so much about what health conscious people, particularly women, I must say, it's like 85% of the ones who contact me, they're women.
Interesting.
So it has changed the way they look upon health, that you're not supposed to wait until you get sick and then you depend on the doctor's skills and the healthcare provider's skills and your money to get well. Rather, they would want to be CEO of their own health and take charge and avoid getting sick. And now we know so much about how to do that. And in my book, I tried to, in a very easy reading way, to explain the most important things that you can do for your own health.
And we're going to dive into exactly how to use a watch, because I know what you're thinking. Okay, that sounds great, but how? How do I do it? We're going to dive into that in a second and talk about how to lower your disease risk and thrive by monitoring your heart rate variability. He has very specific, practical, tangible recommendations that you can implement as soon as you are done listening or watching. Ladies, would you love to start your day feeling calm and confident with a morning routine that didn't sacrifice your sleep? Introducing Early Morning Habit, the virtual holistic health program helping busy women revitalize faith and fitness with a morning routine that starts each day with God's Word and a workout.
Before, I always felt like I was waking up behind. When I wake up in the morning, I feel better equipped.
The chaos after Early Morning Habit, I would say peace. Fearful, I now wake up every day hopeful.
From pressure to freedom. Tired, more energy.
Frantic to prepared.
Wasted to maximized.
Overwhelmed to more collected.
I really have, can I say, become a morning person?
Here's the best part. Every day you rise for yourself, you help a child wake up to the hope of a forever family through our adoption fundraising program. Visit www.earlymorninghabit.com and start rising today. We're going to play a speed round of Would You Rather with Dr. Torkel. He didn't know he signed up for this. So I'm going to ask you, would you rather? And it's very simple. No stress. No stress. Would you rather go to the beach or camp in the woods?
Beach, but I would do both.
When you sail, this is such an ignorant question. I clearly don't do a lot of sailing, although I would love to. Do you dock your boat? Is that what you call it? I don't even know. And spend time.
I like to anchor. Yeah, anchor and take the dinghy in and then go to the beach. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. But you're primarily living on your boat when you're sailing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a lot of hiking around you? Like when you go sailing,
we love to combine, to go sailing, go to the beach, and then find some trails to go walking.
Yeah.
I love to walk. I've done these pilgrimages of maybe a month of walking.
Wow.
To Santiago de Compostela and in Norway and in Rome and even to Jerusalem. And so I like these long hikes. I would love to go to the States and do the Appalachian Trail, Pacific Crest Trail and those kind of things.
Yeah. My parents are, as we speak, hiking on the Appalachian Trail over the last 6 or 7 years. They have worked on hiking the entire trail. And this is their very last one, and they will have completed the entire trail. So
Wow,
It's a whole
fantastic.
culture. The Appalachian is like there's a whole culture of people that do it.
And I'm sure that if you spend 1 week on the trail, you know, you will live for 4 months longer. You know,
Yes.
it's an investment in time, in
Yeah.
lifetime, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. And memories. Yeah. Would you rather coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Do you, this is, so tell me about coffee in your area. Is there like specific, I've always heard Italy has the best coffee in the world, is what I've been told. But seeing as you've been a world traveler, have you experienced the best cup of coffee somewhere?
I've had coffee in Ethiopia. That was probably
Mm.
where coffee comes from, or so they said. So that was at least different and interesting. But I'm not really a coffee aficionado. Maybe Brazil would be the nicest coffee, and
Hmm.
even Colombia. But in Colombia they had Nescafe, so they didn't
Uh-huh.
really drink their coffee there, or so it seemed.
Yeah.
So. So, but I
Yeah.
usually go for the straight, easy choice, you know, get the normal coffee or Americano is what I usually order. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. When I lived in Peru, they drank a lot of instant coffee, which kind of shocked me. I was
Yeah,
like, oh, okay.
yeah. Even in Colombia, where it comes from, they also almost only did instant coffee, but that was like 30 years ago, so that may have changed.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, if you had the choice, would you rather go to a concert or a musical? So either see
Concert.
like a concert, is that what you said?
Concert, yeah. I'm looking very much forward to Bruce Springsteen's concert now in July in Oslo or in Bergen in Norway. Yeah,
So he's a
I
concert,
love
he's a concert
concerts.
man.
Yeah.
Would you rather you have an evening with your family? Uh, would you rather watch a movie together or go outside and play a sport?
I'll play a sport.
You have two girls, is that what you said?
Two, no, one boy and
Okay.
or almost a man now. He's 19,
Yeah.
and a girl that's 17. Yeah,
Okay. And are they in the area? You said they're in school.
yeah. They're in school still.
Yeah. So
So
when they come home, you might play something outside.
yeah, yeah. Or
Yeah,
when we're traveling or sailing. Yeah,
yeah, I love that. My kids are 11, 9, 6, and 6. So we're not quite at
yeah.
the yeah, the relaxed. I can't even imagine sailing with my children at the moment. I'm afraid one of them would fall overboard and I'd never see him again.
I don't think so.
My
They
son
would
would
they would
jump ship.
find a way to play. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Um, we've mentioned this idea of heart rate variability, monitoring it with a watch. You do have a very specific watch. We have several watch recommendations. Garmin was the one to me that seemed, at least from our standpoint, the most accessible, probably the name most
Yeah.
familiar.
Yeah, the
They very
Garmin, you
specific.
know, US watch, US product, is still, you know, 2 years after I wrote the book, is still the best option on the market. Even if things are, there's Samsung coming up with their products that maybe they will be approaching it. Apple, unfortunately, is not as good. You have the Aura Ring, you have the Whoop Band, but my favorite by far is the Garmin watches. That will give you your stress level in the moment, easy to read the curves where you can see the stress throughout the day. You can identify that yesterday's stress was between 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock, and that was
Mm.
after I was eating this or that. So it makes it so much easier to, yeah, to see your whole stress balance throughout the day and night.
And they call it
So
the body battery,
body
right?
battery, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. On the Garmin
So
watch.
on the Garmin watch. So it's an estimate of how much do you have in your fuel tank?
Yeah.
How much have you charged overnight? How well have you slept? How much energy do you have to spend on this particular day? And the most important thing is to use only energy that you have saved up. So
Mm.
you don't try to borrow forces or energy from tomorrow that a lot of people do. We can do that, you know, as humans, we can pull ourselves together and you know, strain ourselves too much, you know, but at some point it will lead to disease. So the body battery, then you can see that if you are charged more than 70, 80, you have enough forces to spend that day. And then maybe you have been having some glasses of alcohol, you've been eating something you shouldn't eat, or maybe you've just slept like 5 hours and you wake up with a body battery of 30 or 35. And you have to take it easy, or you should take it easy, so that you again can charge up in the next night to have enough power. So it makes it easier to find your way, and everybody will get surprises. And we're all different. We're all individuals. So we will all react a bit different to different stressors. So a husband and wife, for example, can probably tell that this kind of food stresses one and not the other, and this kind of trip will stress one and not the other, and so on, and alcohol and everything. So it makes it so much easier, and particularly couples and families, they think it's fun. What's your body battery today? Is at breakfast. It becomes kind of a game. So
a valuable one, a very valuable game. This is my thing, you guys, that many of you are already wasting time on silly games on your phone, or binge watching Netflix. You're already putting this time into assessing something else or gamifying something else. Gamify this and then benefit from it from a health standpoint. That's what I love about it. Like you said, people seem to enjoy it, and it makes sense to me, because not only are you enjoying it, but it is also preventing disease and promoting more energy in your life. So it's such a great way to approach it. You pretty countercultural statement. However, research shows this time and time again, and yet people have a really hard time making the behavioral modifications necessary. But talk to us about alcohol being liquid stress.
Yes, and that is the Whoop band that I have on my one wrist here. They are tracking their consumers' the data, and they say that alcohol is by far the worst stressor for your body. It's not the alcohol in itself, because the alcohol, it will make you relax. So in the evening, you feel very relaxed and mellow. But problem is when you sleep, the alcohol is converted into acetaldehyde in your body, which is a very poisonous, toxic, and your liver has to work really hard throughout the night to detoxify you. So when you wake up in the morning, and I used to drink a couple of glasses of wine every day. That used to be doctor's orders, at the time. Then I would wake up really sluggish and groggy. I would think it's just a feeling. But when I look at my watches, I see my body has been as stressful as if I'm having a lecture in the daytime. I can have a heart rate that's 20 or 25, like 85 instead of 60 in the heart rate during the night, just sleeping. So, and of course, there's so many diseases that are coupled to alcohol, and probably the stress of it is part of it. And then people find out that without alcohol, they feel much fresher the next day. And according to Whoop, if you have like 4 or 5 glasses of wine or beer, it will take 5 days until your recovery state is back where it was before you were drinking. So then if you drink like 2 times a week, you will never know your performance level. You will always underperform. So that is what is so shocking to many people when they see the physiological price for alcohol.
Yes.
And I used to, of course, love alcohol. I used to drink probably every day for 20 years. It was even recommended, so that's why I felt I could do it, with a good conscience. But
the red wine, yeah.
Yeah. So people, but not everybody reacts in this way. So there will be differences, as I said. So you'll find out whether you can tolerate it or not.
Yeah, but I love that what the concept that we're tapping into here is data over emotions. It's this idea of we're going to look at the science, not just the external sense of how we're feeling, but really diving into the numbers and allowing yourself to be open to what it is telling you and make the lifestyle modifications necessary. And I can tell you, you guys listening and watching, anecdotally, the amount of people in my, fitness nutrition program when I coached, that ended up removing alcohol from, even if it was just 1 to 2 glasses, slept better and generally felt significantly improved. And actually a common, not just sleep, but also general stomach pain or just discomfort, interestingly, tended to correlate with that. That could have been related to other strategies we were implementing, but it was interesting how often that went together.
Yeah, I would say that if you feel sick from any cause or have some troublesome symptoms of any cause, the first thing I would cut is alcohol. Try it for like 2 months, and you need maybe 2 months to see how you are functioning without alcohol.
Yes.
Of course, you can read a lot only from a week, you will feel something, but the complete picture, you would probably need 2 months without alcohol to see what your performance level is then.
So someone goes out, they're done listening to this, and they're like, yep, I want that Garmin watch, which you guys will make sure it's linked, by the way, in the show notes so that you can practically go right there and take a look at it. As well as his book, of course, The Pulse Cure, which is going to be your guide to walking through all of these steps, diagnosing, and then intervening in your own life. So they go and they get the watch and they learn how to use the body battery, and they're monitoring it, and they start to see these trends. They're educating themselves on what is causing them stress, what is helping them to rest. But talk to me a little bit about kind of step number 1. How do they start intervening when they realize they are stressed? Let's say they think they're relaxed. They're doing something that they think allows them to rest, but they're realizing that they're not. What types of interventions, where have you seen, your community make changes in their life that have been surprising, maybe when it comes to stress and rest?
Yeah, so you have 2 parts of, you have to stress lower, to decrease your stress and increase your de-stressing activities.
Yes.
So I call it active rest in the book, and that would be like breathing exercises, breath work, and in general, breathing slower, breathing down to 6 breaths a minute, which is half the breaths that you would take if you don't think about it. That would be maybe 4 seconds in and then 6 seconds out. That would calm down your nervous system. It would be the most effective way. And you could do it, for like 10 minutes at a time, but you can also do it just 5 breaths here and there throughout the day. Get used to calm yourself down by using your breath. Another way is to use cold, to take a cold shower, a cold bath. It can even be in summertime if the water is well, it depends in Fahrenheit, but maybe 70 degrees Fahrenheit probably will still work well to calm down the inflammation in your body. So that would be the 2 go-tos. And then of course you need to lower your stress, maybe to do things less intensively. Like if you do housework, do the dishes and just do it more slowly, more mindfully. You don't have to do everything quick to move on to the next thing on the to-do list. So just to slow down the speed, because what a lot of people find out that they are racing at the physiological speed of 110 miles an hour, And once you get that speed down to 90, it's all manageable. So if you can just do things a bit more slowly, a bit more mindfully, then that is half of the job, And then in between, take this breath works, takes moments of silence, lie down, close your eyes, listen to music, read a book. So if you're very obsessed about being productive, also the reading time can be very, very restful.
Yes.
So you can read a book, listen to an audiobook, listen to a podcast, and so on. Go for a walk. A walk is also rest, rest for your brain. So that can be another strategy.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned reading, something that since I've become a virtual entrepreneur and stepped away from emergency medicine, the danger is that, I can work anytime, any place. And so I actually work more. I enjoy it more, but I work more. And so it has really been a challenge to figure out how to rest, because to your point, there can be physiological rest where I'm not necessarily working as fast, but my mind is still going as quickly. And so for
Yeah.
me, what I discovered with reading is that it is the one time that I cannot multitask. The concept of sitting, not even an audiobook, because I can still multitask while listening to something. I can also still multitask while watching something, even if I'm sitting, where my brain is still multitasking on my laptop or whatever, where if I am just sitting and reading, I physically, it's helpful to be still. It's a little hard to move and read at the same time. You can do it, but it's a lot harder. But it also mentally turns me off because I'm fully engaged in the story and I'm not thinking about, picking up this person from here or everything that I need to do here for work. So reading has been one of the most, like plopping myself in a chair and actually just reading,
Yeah.
has been
Yeah,
really
and
restorative for me.
it's probably a bit like walking, that you have this speed, you have this speed of reading. You cannot speed read it, so you have to keep the pace that you are reading for that time, a half hour or an hour or so. So if you can do that before you go to bed, then you will calm down your nervous system and then you will sleep more effectively. Because that is how we are designed to be, throughout the evolution, that the nighttime, after the sun was down, there was not so much to do,
Yes.
to relax and then fall asleep. So I used to think that if I worked really hard all day and go to bed really exhausted and sleep,
Yes.
almost before my head hits the pillow, that's good sleep. But that's not true. You can see it immediately on your watches that your stress levels will be high throughout the night. So winding down in the evening, dimming the lights, reading a book, stay away from social media and laptop screens, having the bedroom cool, from I think from 60 to 65 degrees or so, would be good in Fahrenheit, and really dark. You should not be able to see the hand in front of you, in the bedroom. Even a little bit of light can disturb the melatonin hormone in your brain. So if you do that, that will ensure that you get enough sleep, and make sure that you sleep, between 7 and 8 hours. That's so important. So, and then reading can be then a part of the winding down process.
Yeah. You guys write this down. Write this down. I really, it was an honor to have you here. We're going to make sure that the link to the watch, specifically, you guys, I'm going to link the Garmin watch, and then his book, The Pulse Cure. I value your perspective. I value the way that you are bringing this type of information. It's so practical and using data to help us rest. We just don't do it well. It is countercultural. So I thank you for the lives that you're changing. I pray God's blessing over your heart and your home and your sailing and your son and your
Thank
daughter.
you. Thank you.
But thank you
So
so
nice
much
to
for
be
being
talking
here.
to you.
Thank you for watching the Imperfectly Empowered podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the channel by clicking below. And if you missed our last video, then be sure to check it out right here. We'll see you next time on the podcast. Your story matters and you are loved.